Good morning. Really great to be here. My name is Chon. I'm the Managing Director for SEATHK at Nutanix. SEATHK represents ASEAN, all of the ASEAN countries, the Greater China countries, as well as Korea for the region. So excited to be here. First of all, I'd like to thank BUMN for organizing such a great event today. And secondly, I'd like to thank the Fordigi organizing committee for letting us be part of it. Really great to be here. So this morning, we'll be talking about what we call hybrid cloud in order to be able to advance and transform your business. The idea is that business transformation often requires intervention of technology. And this is one particular view that we believe that you can make your business transformation more impactful through adoption and deployment of the technologies that I like to talk about. And to be able to do that, I like to be able to have a quick definition of what hybrid multi-cloud is, because I think while the name kind of suggests what it actually means, all of us may have a slightly different view of what it actually means in your own sort of operations, your organizations. Nope. Sorry. There you go. Okay, so I think in order to be able to define hybrid multi-cloud, I think one of the ways that we can think about it is basically, can we create a unified approach to manage your apps, your services, your data across many, many different environments, be it on-prem, be it in the public cloud, or maybe even many, many clouds. And in order to be able to sort of manage it in a single pane of glass so that the operation becomes seamless and you are able to drive further efficiency as well as efficacy. So with that in mind, I think I'd like to be able to take a look at the current business challenges that we are facing. I think we're having a slight problem with the clickers today. Next slide, please. There you go. So these are some of the basic challenges that we'd like to be able to define in today's conversation. The first is about the explosion of apps and data we are seeing on a daily basis. The second is around managing the rising cost and complexity of managing such diverse and multiple environments. And the last component is about ensuring that we have an approach, a management view, a strategy in addressing the skills gap that we are seeing in the marketplace, as well as this competition towards the talent that we have in the marketplace. Next slide, please. Oh, no, went 2 slides forward. There you go. So one of the things that we first like to look at is basically this idea of explosion of data and apps. And based on what we have been seeing and observing, some of you may have actually seen this number being represented before. 2.5 quintillion bytes of information is being generated on a daily basis. And to be honest, this 2.5 quintillion bytes, the reference goes back as far as 2018. And the current belief is that on a daily basis, we are generating about 3.5 quintillion bytes. Not yet fully estimated, but that is the going sort of rate that we are seeing. So it's not just about storing, managing, and organizing the data, but with so much data, the data that is out there, how do you capture more of it so that you can use it to your own organization's effectiveness in managing the business and growing the business? Secondly, it's about the apps. It's expected that 750 million apps will be created between now and 2026. That translates to close to about 680,000 apps created per day. That's a tremendous amount of apps. Some of these are super apps that we are very familiar with. Some of these are much more specialized, industry-specific apps. but we've got to be able to figure out a way to make sure that we can interoperate with these apps, get the maximum usage and data out of such apps, so that we can make sure that we're being part of that sort of competitive landscape that we are all seeing today. Next slide, please. The rise in cost and complexity, as I mentioned before, is one of the key concerns, especially around managing public cloud subscription and usage. And what we have found is that during our survey, about 85% of those whom we have surveyed in the IT leadership role have highlighted managing cloud costs has become a significant challenge for them. Only 15% said it is not a significant challenge, but it's still a challenge. Whereas we are also seeing 100% of those whom we have surveyed in APJ that they have either moved an application or data or service from on-prem to the cloud, from one cloud to another, or from cloud back to on-prem. So we're making these changes regularly. And out of those 100%, 86% of them highlighted that this is becoming too expensive, this is becoming too complicated. How do we make sure that we do that a lot easier? Next slide, please. So to be able to do all of this, we need those with skills and experience and vision to be able to take it to the next level, to make it more effective, to make it more efficient, to make it work. And we are seeing a huge gap in that skills area. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes money to be able to train and scale our resources on a daily basis. And once we actually get them to the certain level, there's a huge amount of attention and an interest for such resources in the entire marketplace. Now, World Economic Forum recently highlighted that about 53% of all employees in the world will need to upskill their IT-related skill set in order to be able to make sure that we are taking better advantage out of it. And that's every employee. That's 1 billion people in the world. And in order to be able to make sure that they are getting the maximum impact out of it, those of us who are involved in setting up the IT vision or technology vision or implementing it has to be skilled even at a faster rate. So this is becoming a huge issue. So how do we address this issue of the explosion of data and apps, the costs and management of it, and the gap that we have around skill set? Next slide, please. One of the things that our people, the leaders that we have surveyed highlighted that, hey, this is all something that I cannot avoid. I need to have access to the public cloud. I need to have my own private cloud for various different reasons, and I still need my legacy solutions and legacy infrastructures in order to support and deliver the services that I'm accountable for. But if there's a way to be able to have a singular, unified platform or place to be able to manage the apps, the services, the data across many, many different diverse environments, that'll really help. Sounds like an obvious answer. And that's, I think, why hybrid cloud has become much more important in the current context. The way that you manage your on-prem solutions and infrastructure and environment is vastly different to how things are done in the cloud. You cannot have the same resource being sufficient and proficient at managing both of those environments. Even one cloud to another, there are specialized skill sets and access and approach that you need to deploy in order to be able to get the maximum out of it. So if we can break down some of those differences and make it a lot more seamless between these environments, that's where we believe that additional efficiency and efficacy can be created. And that's the vision of the hybrid multi-cloud. Next slide, please. And this is what we are hoping for. You know, you could say, well, this is the next iteration of the platform and infrastructure that we are gunning for. The first is to create a singular platform that has ability to be able to operate across many, many different platforms, environments. So that's straightforward. That's what we just talked about before. But Having the ability to be able to manage different environment under one roof is one thing, but can you move the data, the services, the apps across those things? Can you create? Do we know how to create such services across many different platforms? That's the second vision of hybrid multi-cloud. The third is the idea of anti-fragility. I'm not sure whether you heard this concept before. The idea is that your environment is not fragile, that it is able to handle complexities arising from a significant change, maybe an attack, and the flexibility and agility needed in order to be able to survive the onslaught of changes that are happening. And then finally, can we make sure that we are able to view the cloud, the edge, and the data center as a single amorphous and singular sort of infrastructure? That's the vision of hybrid multi-cloud that we like to propose and we like to work towards. Next slide, please. So there are different ways to get to those cloud vision. And when I say cloud, I'm not using the word as a destination or a location. So you can think of it as a public cloud or private cloud or something else. It is about an idea of methodology and a journey towards the environment creation that we are looking for. And there are three major ways that we believe that we can approach it. The first is cloud first. The idea here is that every new projects and ideas that you see, you like to build it in the cloud first. It doesn't mean that you will not do it on-prem. It simply means that you'll do it in the cloud as a priority. The second is what we call cloud only. So you disregard the on-prem component and you continually try to put everything in the cloud. And then the last is what we call cloud smart, which is an optimized and a balanced view of how to create cloud based on your requirements that you see fit. Next slide, please. Obviously, from our perspective, the answer is fairly straightforward. Of course, we want to have a balanced view. Of course, we want to have an optimized view. And how do we get there becomes much more important question than what it is that we are trying to do. We all know that cloud-only strategy has brought on its own set of challenges. We all know and experienced the cloud-first challenges have brought on expenses and unplanned issues across our operation. So we all know the answer. So the next question really is about how do we then create a cloud-smart environment? Next slide, please. And there are three things that I like to propose that we try to tackle. The first is what we call the modernization of your on-prem environment. As I mentioned before, what you see in the cloud and how they're delivered, both in terms of consumption of the data, usage of the apps, and provision of the services, is radically different to how it is done on-prem. There's no direct translation between infrastructure and services or apps or data. These are highly abstract idea of what resources mean. They're virtualized. And that's what we are referring to. Can you abstract your resources so that it can actually sit anywhere with little to no context to what sits underneath? Do you have ability to be able to create a representation layer so that it can be consumed by the cloud or on-prem solutions? That's what we are talking about. And sometimes we call it the modernization of apps, we call it the modernization of on-prem, but the ideas are similar. How do you able to encapsulate the services and the data that your users need to consume in a way that has no reference to the underlying infrastructure? Second, once you're able to comfortably do that, we are seeing the introduction of the public cloud services become much smoother. So we start to look at how do we integrate those two things in a way that was not possible before, because either we had to follow one rule on-prem or another rule for the cloud. And then finally, the idea is to make sure that we have ability to be able to run apps anywhere. Once you modernize it and you have integrated different types of environment, it's no point if you cannot actually run the services and apps that you need to run in any way that you want. And that's the vision that we want to create, and those are the steps that we believe that you'll need to take in order to be able to get there. Next slide, please. So if I was to give just one sentence that I'd like everybody in this meeting, in a conference, to be able to take away as a result of what hybrid cloud means for your organizations and the vision that you want to create. The idea is that, can I create a one platform to be able to run any apps, any services, any data across anywhere, any cloud, any on-prem solutions? That's the idea that we're trying to build. And we are starting to see examples of such implementation across many different organizations within Indonesia, within ASEAN, within APJ. And we like to make sure that whatever we have learned is something that we can impart and share with you in our future conversations. Now, I was going to actually end it here in today's conversation, but a former business leader famously once said, one more thing. So next slide, please. I think I have to talk about AI. If you're not talking about AI with your organization today, then you're only talking half the story. Everybody is focused on AI. What is it? How is it done? What do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? When can I get it done? So many different questions arise from this singular concept of AI. And whether you've been in the AI industry for long, where you've learned through the whole classical AI and then connectionist and now generative AI, but everybody's talking about it. So what are we going to talk about today from Nutanix perspective? Next slide, please. I'd like to introduce what we call GPT in a box. The idea of pre-trained AI stack in a box is what we are trying to highlight here. So what is it? Next slide, please. The whole idea is a fairly simple one, which is an AI-ready platform and services so that you can get your things done. That's the simplest way that I can explain. So instead of having to figure out what is the right AI stack that I need in order to be able to run the mechanism, how is it meant to all work together as a solution? Does it have a particular training mechanism that I need to follow? And do I have people who can actually make it happen? So we'll actually work on some of those ideas so that you can get AI impact into your organization a lot sooner than you imagine. We are taking care of all the AI stacks. We are taking care of the platforms, including the GPUs, in order to be able to provide the computational requirement that AI solutions require. And we'll provide services to fine-tune and train your environments accordingly. What it does is actually so that you can focus on the really important aspects of the AI, which is the next slide. What is your AI vision? What do you want to do with it? AI sounds great, but a ChatGPT is not an AI solution. Sure, it can do some interesting stuff. It's a novel idea. It sounds cool. It does some cool things, but your organization needs your help to create what the AI vision for the organization needs to be. What can it do? Second, you need to work on use cases and figure out a way to create business outcomes that you can measure against. If you do not have those things in place, what is the point of deploying AI other than having an interesting experience with a computer system? That's what we are looking for. The third, which I think is actually quite overlooked often, is the idea of optimizing your processes ready for AI support. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say that you have a business procedure that you want to optimize through AI. And let's say that AI was able to provide the speed, the efficiency, and the scale that you are looking for in order to be able to get it done. However, every single one of those AI decisions needed to be vetted by a human. Now you killed all of the benefits that you created through AI because your current business process does not allow the machine to make independent decisions on your behalf. So instead of simply thinking about how do I deploy AI, it requires all of us to really focus on how do I create business processes that actually can take care of, can benefit from the AI-based decision-making process. And that's something that I think we all need to focus on. And lastly, no AI is complete, and every AI solution starts with your data. So if you do not have your data cleaned up, organized, and analyzed in a way that's going to be most effective, you're not really going to get much out of it. You're going to use somebody else's training, somebody else's data to be able to provide services and applications that you like to use. So you can focus on your own data rather than trying to build an AI platform from scratch. That's the idea of having an AI in a box. And with that, next slide, please. I'd just like to wrap up. Again, the idea of hybrid multi-cloud is to create a singular platform that you can manage any apps, any services, any data, anywhere. And then second idea that I'd like to impart today is that in order for you to become efficient and effective at creating a right AI solution, you need to be able to spend your time in areas that matters the most. Let us, or somebody like us, take care of some of the basics of what needs to get done so that you can get the most out of the AI solutions that you're looking for. And with that, I hope that you enjoy the rest of the sessions and day today. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.